Queen Vera stood tall in the Grand Council chamber of Zephyros Prime. Her silver scales caught the light from the massive crystal chandeliers hanging above. The room was filled with her most trusted advisors, all of them tall and powerful like herself. Their faces showed worry and exhaustion. 3 years of war had taken its toll on everyone. The decision is final, Vera announced, her voice echoing through the chamber. I will marry the human diplomat Ben Torres. This union will bring peace between our peoples. General Thane stepped forward. His dark green scales were marked with battle scars from the recent conflicts. My queen, surely there must be another way. Humans are weak creatures. They cannot even grow proper claws or scales for protection. Vera turned her golden eyes toward him. That is exactly why this will work, Thane. The humans know they cannot win through force. They offer diplomacy instead. Their representative comes not as a conqueror, but as a bridge between our worlds. Minister Kala spoke next. She was older than the others, her scales faded to pale silver with age. The death tolls from the border worlds keep rising. Our people grow tired of sending their children to die for rocks and empty space. Perhaps the Queen is right. The humans fight with machines and tricks, General Thane argued. They hide behind their metal ships and energy weapons. When those fail them, what do they have left? Soft skin and weak bones. Vera had studied the reports from the front lines. The humans were indeed smaller and physically weaker than her people. But they had something else. Their ships moved in perfect coordination. Their strategies were complex and patient. Where Zephyrians fought with honor and individual strength, humans fought as one united force. They have numbers, Vera said simply. And they have patience. Every month we fight, more human ships arrive at our borders. Every battle we win costs us warriors we cannot replace. Every battle they lose teaches them how to fight us better. The truth was hard to accept, but Vera had learned long ago that good rulers faced hard truths. The Zephyrian Empire was strong, but humanity's confederation was vast. Earth alone had 12 billion people. They had colonies on hundreds of worlds. Even if every single Zephyrian warrior could defeat 10 humans in single combat, the numbers would eventually win. When will this human arrive? Asked Minister Kala. His ship enters our system tomorrow, Vera replied. The ceremony will take place in 1 week. Both our peoples will witness it through live broadcasts. There will be no doubt about our commitment to peace. The doors to the chamber opened with a soft hiss. A young messenger entered and bowed low before the Queen. Your Majesty, we have received a message from the human diplomatic vessel. They request permission to land at the main spaceport. Granted, Vera said. Assign them guest quarters in the palace. Make sure they understand they are under our protection. General Thane's expression darkened. Protection? From what? From the same extremists who killed the last 3 peace negotiators, Vera said coldly. From the fools who think endless war brings glory to our people. The next day arrived with clear skies over the capital city. Vera watched from her tower window as the human ship descended through the atmosphere. It was smaller than she had expected, carrying only a dozen passengers. Most Zephyrian diplomatic missions included at least 100 guards and servants. The landing ceremony was brief and formal. Vera descended to the palace courtyard with her honor guard. The humans emerged from their ship wearing simple dark uniforms. They looked even smaller standing next to her warriors. Ben Torres stepped forward from the human group. He was average height for his species, with brown hair and calm blue eyes. His skin was pale compared to Zephyrian standards, and he carried no visible weapons. He moved with quiet confidence as he approached the Queen. Your Majesty, he said, offering a respectful bow. I am honored to be here. I hope our union will bring lasting peace to both our peoples. Vera studied him carefully. His voice was steady and sincere. She had expected him to show fear or nervousness in the presence of so many powerful Zephyrians. Instead, he seemed completely at ease. "Welcome to Zephyros Prime," she replied formally. "You and your people will be treated as honored guests until the ceremony." "Thank you. I have brought gifts from Earth and our colony worlds, tokens of friendship between our species." Ben gestured to his companions, who brought forward several containers. Inside were samples of human art, music, and literature. There were also rare minerals from human mining worlds and technological innovations that might benefit Zephyrian society. "Impressive," said General Thane, though his tone suggested he was not impressed at all. "Pretty trinkets and clever devices. Is this how humans show their strength?" Ben looked at the general with those same calm blue eyes. "We prefer to show our wisdom, General. Strength without wisdom leads to unnecessary suffering. And wisdom without strength leads to conquest by those who have both," Thane replied. "Perhaps," Ben said with a slight smile. "But wisdom helps one recognize when strength is truly needed." Over the following days, Ben settled into palace life with surprising ease. He learned basic Zephyrian phrases quickly and showed genuine interest in their customs and history. Unlike most foreign diplomats, he did not complain about the food, the temperature, or the accommodation arrangements. Vera found herself watching him during formal dinners and cultural presentations. He asked thoughtful questions about Zephyrian philosophy and government. He listened carefully to the answers and remembered small details that other humans had ignored. "Your marriage customs are quite different from ours," Ben said during one evening meal. "On Earth, couples usually choose each other based on personal attraction. Political marriages ended centuries ago. Personal attraction is a luxury for common citizens," Vera replied. "Rulers must think of their people first." "I understand. Though I hope we can find some common ground beyond politics." Vera was surprised by his directness. Most arranged marriage partners tried to avoid discussing the personal aspects of their situation. "What kind of common ground do you mean?" "Shared interests. Mutual respect. Perhaps friendship, given time." "You speak as if you plan to stay here permanently." Ben nodded. "That was always the plan. A marriage that ends in divorce would not provide lasting peace. I am prepared to make Zephyros Prime my home for the rest of my life." This surprised Vera even more. Human diplomats usually negotiated return clauses in their agreements. They wanted guarantees about visits to Earth or provisions for eventual retirement to human space. "You would give up your home world forever?" "Home is where you choose to build your life," Ben said simply. "I have no family left on Earth. My military service took me to many different worlds. I learned long ago that a person can be at home anywhere if they approach it with the right attitude." "Military service?" Vera asked. This was the first time he had mentioned any military background. "I served in the Confederation Defense Forces before joining the Diplomatic Corps," Ben explained. "It taught me valuable lessons about working with different species and cultures." General Thane had been listening to the conversation from across the table. "What kind of military service?" "Logistics? Communications? Infantry, mostly. Some special operations work toward the end of my service." "Combat experience?" Thane asked with more interest. "Some," Ben replied, then skillfully changed the subject back to Zephyrian culture. The wedding ceremony was planned as a grand spectacle. Representatives from dozens of worlds would attend in person, while billions more would watch the live broadcasts. The palace staff worked day and night preparing decorations, arranging security, and coordinating the complex diplomatic protocols. Vera spent long hours in meetings with various officials, ensuring every detail was perfect. The marriage had to appear genuine and lasting. Any sign of weakness or reluctance would encourage the extremist factions who opposed peace. Ben spent his time meeting with Zephyrian citizens and learning about their society. He visited factories, schools, and military bases. Everywhere he went, he asked questions and listened carefully to the answers. His genuine curiosity impressed many who had expected human arrogance or condescension. "The human is not what I expected," Minister Kala admitted during a private meeting with the Queen. "He shows real respect for our ways." "He is intelligent," Vera agreed. "And patient. These are valuable qualities in a diplomatic partner." "Do you think the marriage will actually work?" Vera considered the question carefully. "I think we can build something functional together. Whether it becomes more than that remains to be seen." 3 days before the ceremony, disturbing reports began arriving from the border systems. Radical Zephyrian groups were gathering ships and weapons. They called themselves the True Empire faction, claiming that Queen Vera had betrayed her people by agreeing to marry a weak human. Similar extremist groups on the human side denounced the marriage as surrender to alien tyranny. Both factions wanted to restart the war for their own purposes. They saw peace as a threat to their power and influence. Security for the ceremony must be increased, General Thane advised during an emergency meeting. These extremists will try to disrupt the proceedings. "Double the guard rotations," Vera ordered. "Search every guest and service worker. No weapons except those carried by our own security forces." Ben attended these security meetings, offering insights about human extremist tactics and suggesting additional precautions. His military experience proved useful in identifying potential threats and planning countermeasures. "You seem very calm for someone whose life might be in danger," Vera observed after one particularly tense meeting. "Worry does not prevent danger," Ben replied. "Preparation does. Your security forces are excellent. The preparations are thorough. Beyond that, there is little point in borrowing trouble from tomorrow." The day of the ceremony arrived with perfect weather and massive crowds gathering in the capital city. Security forces were everywhere, scanning faces and monitoring communications. The palace was sealed except for verified guests and essential personnel. Vera stood in her private chambers, dressed in traditional ceremonial robes of silver and blue. Her attendants had polished her scales until they gleamed like mirrors. Ancient jewelry passed down through generations of queens adorned her neck and arms. A soft knock came at the door. "Enter," she called. Ben stepped inside, wearing formal clothes that blended human and Zephyrian styles. His calm demeanor remained unchanged, even facing the most important day of both their lives. "You look magnificent," he said with obvious sincerity. "Thank you. Are you ready for this?" "As ready as anyone can be for permanently changing their life," Ben replied with a slight smile. They walked together toward the great hall where thousands of guests waited. Their marriage would create a new chapter in the history of both species. Neither of them could imagine what challenges lay ahead. The wedding ceremony proceeded exactly as planned. Queen Vera and Ben Torres exchanged vows in the ancient Zephyrian language before thousands of witnesses. The great hall sparkled with crystal decorations and flowing banners from both civilizations. Representatives from dozens of worlds watched as the human diplomat placed a traditional silver band on Vera's scaled hand. Ben spoke his vows clearly and with conviction. His voice carried to every corner of the massive chamber through advanced sound systems. When he promised to defend the Zephyrian people as his own, many in the audience seemed surprised by his sincerity. Vera felt an unexpected sense of relief as the ceremony concluded. The political marriage was now complete, but Ben had shown genuine respect throughout the proceedings. Perhaps their partnership would prove more comfortable than she had feared. The celebration feast lasted for hours. Guests from across known space shared food and conversation in the palace ballrooms. Human and Zephyrian cultures blended together for the first time in decades. Musicians played songs from both worlds while diplomats discussed trade agreements and cultural exchanges. Ben proved to be an excellent host, speaking with representatives from various species and making everyone feel welcome. His calm demeanor and thoughtful questions impressed even the most skeptical guests. Several Zephyrian nobles commented privately to Vera that her new husband seemed remarkably capable for a human. "He carries himself well," observed Commander Zeta, one of Vera's most trusted military advisors. Most humans appear nervous around our people. This one acts like he belongs here. He spent time learning our customs, Vera replied, watching Ben converse easily with a group of Zephyrian merchants. Preparation makes all the difference. As the evening progressed, most guests retired to their quarters or departed for their home worlds. The immediate celebration was over, but the real work of building lasting peace would begin tomorrow. Vera and Ben walked together through the palace corridors, discussing plans for future diplomatic initiatives. Your people seem cautiously optimistic about the marriage, Ben observed. I heard many positive comments during the reception. They are willing to give peace a chance, Vera agreed. Though some remain skeptical about human intentions. Skepticism is healthy in diplomacy. Trust must be earned through actions, not words. They reached the royal quarters where they would now live together as husband and wife. The arrangement felt strange to both of them, but they had agreed to maintain the appearance of a genuine partnership. Separate sleeping chambers connected through a shared sitting area provided privacy while preserving diplomatic protocol. Tomorrow we begin the real work, Vera said. Trade negotiations, cultural exchange programs, military cooperation agreements. I look forward to it, Ben replied. Building something lasting takes time and patience. Neither of them noticed the shadowy figures moving through the palace corridors far below their tower quarters. General Corax had spent months planning this moment. He commanded a faction of Zephyrian military officers who believed the marriage was a betrayal of their warrior heritage. In his mind, Queen Vera had surrendered to weak humans instead of continuing the glorious war that had made their people strong. His forces had infiltrated the palace during the celebration, disguised as service workers and security personnel. Now, with most guests departed and the regular guards relaxed after the successful ceremony, Corax was ready to strike. Remember, he told his assembled warriors through encrypted communications. The queen has been corrupted by human weakness. We act to save the empire from dishonor. Kill them both quickly and blame human treachery. The war will resume within days. 40 hand-picked soldiers moved silently through the palace, using service passages and maintenance corridors to avoid detection. They carried advanced energy weapons capable of cutting through the strongest armor. Their plan was simple and brutal. The first explosions came at 3 in the morning. Corax's forces detonated charges that sealed the main entrances to the royal tower, trapping Vera and Ben inside while preventing loyal guards from reaching them. Emergency alarms began wailing throughout the palace complex. What is happening? Vera demanded as she rushed from her chambers, already wearing her ceremonial armor and carrying her traditional battle claws. Ben appeared from his own room, still dressed in sleeping clothes but moving with sudden alertness. His entire demeanor had changed from relaxed diplomat to something much more focused and dangerous. Coup attempt, he said simply, examining the sealed doorway. Professional job. They have trapped us here while they control access points. How do you know this? Before Ben could answer, energy blasts began cutting through the reinforced doors. Sparks flew as powerful weapons carved glowing lines through metal and crystal barriers. Your Majesty, called Captain Noer from the main corridor. She was the senior guard on duty, a veteran warrior with decades of experience. We have hostile forces throughout the palace. At least 40 armed insurgents. They are advancing toward your position. Vera snarled, her natural combat instincts taking over. How many loyal guards do we have in this section? 12, Your Majesty. The rest are cut off or engaged elsewhere. The odds were not favorable. 12 guards plus herself against 40 trained soldiers with heavy weapons. Vera had survived worse battles, but never while trying to protect a civilian. Ben, there is an escape route through the old servant passages, she said quickly. Captain Noer can guide you to safety while we hold them off. No, Ben said calmly. Vera stared at him. This is not a request. You cannot fight. You have no weapons or armor. Your Majesty, Ben said, and his voice carried an authority she had never heard before. With respect, you have no idea what I can or cannot do. The main doors finally gave way under sustained energy fire. Armed figures poured through the smoking opening, their weapons trained on the royal quarters. They wore modified Zephyrian military armor painted in the colors of Corax's rebel faction. General Corax himself strode through the breach, his scaled face twisted with contempt. Queen Vera, you have betrayed our people for the last time. Your marriage to this weak human ends tonight. Corax, Vera snarled, extending her claws to their full length. I should have executed you years ago for insubordination. You should have, Corax agreed. But you grew soft. Just like our entire civilization under your rule. The first exchange of fire lit up the corridor. Vera's guards took defensive positions behind pillars and decorative alcoves, returning shots at the advancing rebels. Energy blasts scorched walls and shattered ancient artwork. Vera fought with the skill that had made her legendary among her people. Her claws could cut through armor, and her natural speed let her dodge most incoming fire. She moved like liquid lightning, striking down 3 rebel soldiers in the first minute of combat. But the numbers were against them. For every rebel who fell, 2 more took his place. Vera's guards fought bravely but were steadily pushed back toward the throne room at the center of the royal quarters. Captain Noer took an energy blast to her shoulder and stumbled. Another guard fell when multiple shots overwhelmed his defensive position. The retreat became more desperate as the rebels pressed their advantage. Where is the human? Corax demanded as his forces surrounded the remaining defenders. I want to see the fear in his eyes before he dies. Here, said a quiet voice behind him. Corax spun around to find Ben Torres standing calmly in the middle of the corridor. He had somehow moved past all the rebel soldiers without being detected. His hands were empty, and he showed no signs of fear or panic. Human fool, Corax laughed. Did you come here to surrender? To beg for mercy? No, Ben said in that same quiet voice. I came here to end this. What happened next would be remembered in Zephyrian history for generations. Ben moved faster than any Zephyrian had ever seen a human move. One moment he was standing empty-handed 10 feet away from the nearest rebel soldier. The next moment, that soldier was unconscious on the floor and Ben held his energy weapon. The weapon discharged twice in Ben's hands, each shot finding its target with impossible precision. 2 more rebels fell before the others could even begin to react. Ben flowed through the corridor like water, never stopping in one place long enough to be targeted. He used everything around him as a weapon. A decorative vase became a projectile that shattered a soldier's helmet. A ceremonial sword from the wall found its way into his hands and through the armor of 3 opponents. Vera watched in stunned amazement as her supposedly weak human husband dismantled an elite military force with his bare hands. His movements were unlike anything she had ever witnessed. Every motion served a purpose. Every step positioned him for the next attack. Nothing was wasted. Impossible, General Corax breathed, raising his own weapon toward Ben. Ben was already moving. He closed the distance between them in 2 quick steps, knocked the weapon aside with one hand, and struck Corax in the throat with the other. The general collapsed, gasping and unable to speak. The remaining rebel soldiers tried to surround Ben, but he had already anticipated their positions. He moved through them like a force of nature, using their own weapons and momentum against them. Within minutes, the corridor was littered with unconscious or defeated enemies. Ben stood among the fallen rebels, breathing normally and showing no signs of exhaustion. His sleeping clothes were torn but he appeared completely uninjured. In his hand he held Corax's command device, which controlled the explosive charges that had sealed the palace entrances. Captain Noer, he said calmly, please contact your reinforcements. The threat has been neutralized. Vera stared at her human husband, her golden eyes wide with shock and something that might have been admiration. The quiet diplomat who had spent weeks learning their customs and asking polite questions had just single-handedly defeated 40 trained warriors. Who are you? She whispered. Ben looked at her with those same calm blue eyes that had seemed so peaceful during their wedding ceremony. For the first time since they had met, she saw something else in them. Something that explained how he had moved through armed soldiers like they were children playing at war. Someone who understands that peace is worth fighting for, he said simply. But Vera knew there was much more to the answer than that. Her human husband was not what he appeared to be. Not even close. The palace corridors fell silent except for the groaning of wounded rebels and the distant sound of approaching reinforcements. Queen Vera stood among the defeated soldiers, her golden eyes fixed on Ben Torres. Her human husband looked completely calm, as if he had just finished a casual conversation rather than single-handedly defeating an elite military force. Captain Noer, Ben said, handing her General Corax's command device. This should disable the remaining explosive charges. Your people can secure the palace now. Captain Noer took the device with shaking hands. Her wounded shoulder still bled, but her expression showed more shock than pain. How did you know about the charges, Ambassador? The explosion pattern was designed to isolate specific areas while maintaining structural integrity, Ben explained. Standard siege tactics for building occupation. The command frequency was easy to identify once I had access to their equipment. Vera stepped closer to Ben, her claws still extended from the earlier fighting. You are not just a diplomat. No, Ben admitted, meeting her gaze directly. I am not. Then who are you really? Ben looked around at the unconscious rebels scattered through the corridor. Several were beginning to wake up, groaning and trying to understand what had happened to them. Perhaps we should continue this conversation somewhere more private. 20 minutes later, they sat in Vera's private study while medical teams treated the wounded and security forces secured the palace. Captain Noer had confirmed that all rebel forces were captured or neutralized. The coup attempt had failed completely. Your real name is Ben Torres, Vera said, pouring herself a glass of Zephyrian wine. Her hands were steady, but Ben could see the tension in her shoulders. That much was true. Yes. Everything in my official diplomatic file is accurate. I did serve in the Confederation Defense Forces before joining the Diplomatic Corps. I do have experience with interspecies relations and conflict resolution. But you were not just a regular soldier. Ben was quiet for a long moment, considering how much to reveal. I was a commander in the Special Operations Division. My unit specialized in high-value target elimination and strategic disruption behind enemy lines. Vera set down her wine glass. How many missions? 43 combat deployments over 12 years. 15 different star systems. 21 different hostile species or human rebel groups. How many enemies did you face? Thousands, over the course of my career. Vera thought about what she had witnessed in the corridor. Ben had moved through 40 trained Zephyrian warriors like they were nothing. Her people were considered among the finest soldiers in known space, yet he had defeated them without breaking a sweat. Why did you retire from military service? Ben's expression became distant. I grew tired of killing. Every mission was necessary, every target deserved their fate, but the work changed me. I wanted to try building peace instead of enforcing it through violence. So Earth's government sent their most dangerous warrior to marry me? Earth's government sent someone who understands the cost of war and the value of peace, Ben corrected. Someone who could protect this alliance if necessary. Vera stood and walked to the large window overlooking the capital city. Dawn was breaking over Zephyros Prime, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. You have been pretending to be weak this entire time. Not pretending. Choosing when to show strength. There is a difference. Ben joined her at the window. A diplomat who appears dangerous makes everyone nervous. A diplomat who appears harmless but proves dangerous when necessary sends a different message entirely. Vera considered this. In Zephyrian culture, strength was displayed openly as a matter of honor and respect. The idea of deliberately appearing weak seemed almost incomprehensible. What message does it send? That humanity prefers peace but is capable of war. That we will negotiate in good faith but defend ourselves if attacked. That underestimating us is a serious mistake. Like General Corax did. Like many people do, Ben agreed. Your species sees humans as small and soft because most of the humans you meet are diplomats and traitors. You never see our soldiers unless you force us to show them. Vera turned away from the window to study Ben's face. How many humans like you exist? Special operations? Perhaps 10,000 active personnel across all human space. And regular military forces? The Confederation maintains standing armies on 800 worlds. Total personnel numbers are classified, but publicly available estimates suggest around 50 million active soldiers, not counting planetary militias or reserve forces. The numbers were staggering. Vera had known that humanity was numerous, but she had not fully grasped the implications. If even a fraction of those soldiers possessed skills comparable to Ben's, the Zephyrian Empire would be hopelessly outmatched in any serious conflict. Why did you never tell me this before? Because the point of this marriage was to avoid war, not to threaten it, Ben said. Fear makes a poor foundation for lasting peace. A soft chime indicated someone was requesting entry to the study. Come in, Vera called. Minister Kala entered, followed by several other senior officials. Their expressions ranged from worried to amazed. Word of Ben's performance during the coup attempt had already spread throughout the palace. Your Majesty, Minister Kala said, bowing respectfully to both Vera and Ben. The rebel forces have been completely neutralized. General Corax is in custody and will face trial for treason. Any word from the extremist factions off-world? Vera asked. They have gone silent since news of the failed coup reached them, reported Intelligence Director Yak. It appears that Corax's defeat has discouraged further resistance. What about human extremist groups? Ben asked. Also quiet, Yak replied. Your performance tonight has been recorded and transmitted across human space. The footage shows you defending Queen Vera with remarkable skill. Human peace opponents are finding it difficult to argue that the marriage represents surrender when their representative defeated 40 of our best soldiers. Vera glanced at Ben with new understanding. The recordings were intentional. Security cameras record everything in the palace, Ben said carefully. I was aware they were present. Minister Kala looked confused. Your Majesty. Ambassador Torres is suggesting that his display of combat skill was partially intended for public consumption, Vera explained. To discourage future attacks and demonstrate human capabilities to extremists on both sides. A reasonable precaution, agreed Director Yak. The footage has certainly had the desired effect. Both human and Zephyrian military analysts are reassessing their assumptions about human combat capabilities. Over the following days, Ben's reputation transformed completely. Zephyrian nobles who had previously dismissed him as a weak human now treated him with the respect normally reserved for proven warriors. His diplomatic suggestions carried new weight when everyone understood the strength that backed them up. Vera found herself seeing Ben differently as well. His quiet confidence now made perfect sense. His patience during cultural lessons and political discussions reflected the discipline of someone accustomed to life and death decisions. His genuine interest in Zephyrian society showed the strategic mind of a soldier who understood the importance of knowing his environment. I have been thinking about our conversation yesterday, she said one evening as they shared dinner in their private quarters. Which part? About building peace instead of enforcing it. I think I understand the difference now. Ben set down his fork. Oh. Enforcement requires constant vigilance and repeated demonstrations of power. Building requires trust, cooperation, and shared investment in success. That is a good way to put it. Vera studied his face in the soft light of the dining chamber. You could have told me about your military background from the beginning. Why did you choose to let me discover it this way? Because discovering it through my actions rather than my words means something different, Ben explained. Words can be lies or exaggerations. Actions show true character. And what did my actions show you during the coup attempt? Ben smiled, the first completely genuine smile she had seen from him. That you are every bit the warrior queen your reputation suggests. That you would rather die fighting beside your people than abandon them for safety. That your courage matches your intelligence. Vera felt warmth spread through her chest at his words. When was the last time anyone had praised her for anything other than political necessity? Is this how human marriages work, she asked. Learning about each other through crisis and conflict. Human marriages work many different ways, Ben said. But the best ones involve partners who respect each other and face challenges together. Even arranged marriages. Especially arranged marriages. When people choose each other, they often choose based on temporary feelings or surface attraction. When circumstances choose for them, they have to build something deeper. Vera considered this. Her parents had also been married for political reasons, but they had found genuine love together over decades of shared rule. Perhaps the same thing was possible for her and Ben. What do you think we can build together? She asked. A partnership that serves both our peoples, Ben said immediately. Trust between species that have been enemies. Understanding that leads to cooperation rather than conflict. That sounds very diplomatic. It is. But it is also personal. Vera raised an eyebrow. How so? Because I find myself genuinely caring about your well-being and the success of your reign, Ben said quietly. That was not part of my original mission parameters. And I find myself grateful for a husband who can protect what we are building together, Vera admitted. That was not something I expected to value. They finished dinner in comfortable silence, both thinking about the future they were creating together. The marriage had begun as a political necessity, but it was becoming something more real with each passing day. Later that night, as they prepared for bed in their separate chambers, Vera made a decision that surprised them both. Ben, she called softly through the connecting door between their rooms. Yes. Would you like to talk more? About our plans, our hopes, our fears. There was a pause before he answered. I would like that very much. She opened the door between their chambers and found him sitting by the window, looking out at the city lights below. For the first time, he looked less like a diplomat or a soldier and more like a man trying to understand his place in an alien world. What do you see when you look at those lights? She asked, joining him at the window. Home, Ben said simply. For the first time in many years, I see home. Vera smiled, her golden eyes reflecting the city lights. So do I. Their marriage had survived its first real test, and both of them were beginning to understand that what they were building together might become the foundation for something much larger than either of them had imagined. Peace, it turned out, was worth fighting for. And sometimes, the best way to fight for it was to build it together, one conversation at a time.